hoping that our lovely co-chair can take over for me, and I'm going to leave now and arrive in about 20 minutes. Very sorry that I'm not there yet, but was unavoidably held up. So if that's something that we can do, then I will hop off and be there in 20. But does that work?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be
Okay.
fine, Andrew. Upton Martin, the vice chair is here, and I think he's ready to go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Absolutely. Thank you, Upton.
We'll see you in a
And
few minutes then.
yeah. I'll still
Just
come
as a
by, but
note, Andrew, I don't think I've ever been referred to as lovely.
well, you are now, and I realize I said
We
vice
have
president
a-
instead of vice chair, and I don't know why I said that, but I have total confidence in your abilities to keep us going, Upton. So I will be there in 20, and yeah, thank you all.
We're breaking new ground.
Thank you for calling in. Sid will take the roll call, please.
Okay. Town of Ashland, Ms. Martin,
Present.
Charles City County, Bill Walton. Chesterfield County, Philip Wymill. Herbert Richwine. Mr. Gonzalo Ada. Here. Goochland County, Robert Basham. Hanover County, Charles Rosnick. Charlie Wardell.
Present.
Henrico County, Gordon Dixon. Michael Wiebe. New Kent County, Bill Dismore.
Yes.
And Pound City of Richmond, Andrew's on his way. Sarah Erickson.
You don't mind.
She's online, okay. Chamber RBA, John Easter. Equitable Transit and Mobility, Kelly Rowan. Ernest Moore. League of Women Voters, Sarah Weisiger.
Present.
Karen Rosenblum. NAACP, Richmond Branch, Walter Johnson. Charles Willis. Rabba Champ Burnley.
Here.
And John Hamilton. RV Rapid Transit, Faith Walker. Stephanie Power. VCU, John Leonard.
Here.
And Jordan Cole.
Here.
Virginia Conservation Network, Victoria Higgins and Richard Hankins. And Virginia for High Speed Rail, Michael Tussaman.
Present.
That's concludes roll call.
We have a quorum? Yeah, good. Thank you.
Record, I got asked.
Oh, Donna Root, my apologies.
Hey, Don.
Hello.
Town of Ashland.
Town of Ashland alternate. We have at least one new member here that I met coming in. Welcome and introduce yourself, please, Bill.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm Bill Diswan from New Kent County. I moved to New Kent in 2021. This is my first exposure to CTAC. Thank you for having me. I met with Lisa Guthrie and Kristen Hahn on a phone call and Lisa again on a phone call to get some background. So I feel about as prepared as I can be for a newbie.
Thank you. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
We will miss Lisa, but we welcome you. Yeah. Any other new people?
I'm not new, but my name was not called. I'm Tony Williams from the Span Center.
Okay, I got that noted. Thank you.
New guy over here calling roll call. Sorry.
I've got chocolate. I really don't care.
Gotcha. Okay, the minutes of the last meeting on May 15th, a part of your packet. Do I hear approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are passed. Any amendments to our agenda? Anybody strongly feeling that they need to add a new item to the agenda? Seeing none, I will move on to open public comments. Anyone, this is for the public, anyone from the public, either here or online? Do we have anybody online, Sid?
again.
Okay, I will close then the open public comment. Maybe not obvious, but I don't have any comments to report. Maybe Andrew will have those when he gets here. So Martha and Ken, I guess it's up to you guys.
Okay. Well, do you want to kick it off or how do you want to handle this? We have been working over the past several months on trying to bring some focus to our attendance policy as well as our honorarium or compensation policy for CTAC members. And this being a new fiscal year, and we have obtained approval on a pilot basis to provide for individuals a $50 honorarium for each meeting you attend. Wow. So please spread the word to folks who are not here today, you know, that this is a pilot. Again, this is intended to see if it will increase participation and attendance. We hope that, you know, not only will you attend, but you will also be more involved and engaged with CTAC. I do have for you an enrollment form. I'm going to pass these around because we want to document that everybody is aware of the policy. And even if you elect not to receive the honorarium, if you would still sign the form, so we have a record of that as well. So let me pass those around. And I also have here the policy itself. And again, this has been approved by our TPO on a pilot basis. We do intend to evaluate this program in terms of you know, its impact on attendance and participation in our CTAC meetings. I'm looking at some other agencies and organizations that have used policies like this and trying to get us some, you know, come up with some factors that we might use to measure the effectiveness of the program. Questions or comments on this?
The attendance policy, I think, is worthy
Yes.
of covering. I think the compensation is pretty straightforward, $50 per attendance. But could you very quickly sort of summarize
Yeah,
the
thank
attendance policy?
Yes, thank you. There are three stipulations or three conditions on the attendance. You know, number one, in the event you're unable to attend, please contact the alternate and request that the alternate attend in your place. We also would ask that you communicate with us, with me, or with Kristen, you know, that you're unable to attend. If you're unable to attend 2 consecutive meetings or 3 meetings in a calendar year, that will trigger us to make an inquiry to the board that was, you know, responsible for your appointment and ask them, you know, notify them of this and ask them what they would like to do about it. So we are going to try to, you know, better monitor the attendance. So I hope this will not, you know, be viewed as it's not intended to be a negative, you know, type of policy, but rather we feel like in as much as we are making a commitment to reward you, if you will, or compensate you for your attendance, that we need to have some means of what's the word I want? I won't say enforcing, but just encouraging. Thank you. That's the word I want. Encouraging people to attend. And attachment starting on page 9 of your agenda packet is the policy. If you want to read some of the fine details there.
Any questions for Ken or Martha in regards to either the attendance policy or the compensation package? Yes, sir.
Sure, I have a question on that. So I'm a little concerned with two, especially with like summertime, people have a lot of vacations, travel,
Right.
things like that.
Right.
And and don't get me wrong, I mean, having done this for 25 years
Right.
now, I take attendance seriously. But is two the right number, or are we gonna start, because the other thing is if suddenly everybody, and we know a lot of people we haven't seen in a long time, are we gonna suddenly purge all the members, the next thing you know, we don't have enough members for a quorum?
Right.
Do you want me to? So, to be clear, the policy has been adopted,
Oh.
so the CTAC met at the last met and forwarded this to the policy board, so both policies are already in place. I think in the spirit of what you're raising though, we don't want policies to be an impediment to participation.
Right.
So I think the goal here is to set a little bit of structure to encourage communication. And to be able to understand that if someone is facing a challenge, we want to work with them to stay engaged, but not to force approval. Yeah, so I mean, Ken said that this is not intended to be punitive.
Yeah.
I think as the CTAC over the next few months starts to talk about expanding its membership and filling out those 12, the remainder of the 12 organizational seats, we want to be clear with new people that come in what the expectation is, but we don't want this to inhibit existing members' participation. I think the policy board, and you'll hear from Kristen a little bit later in the agenda, is very interested in making sure that this committee is well supported and has the opportunity to actively engage in the process. So if we find that there's an issue, the goal is not to kick people off of the committee. I think it's to identify, and then we can certainly go back to the policy board and say, we've got to make it a policy.
And just one more comment, it sounds like, the train's already left the station, but, to me, as long as the organization has an alternate or somebody there. And again, since this, heretofore has been an all volunteer board, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. You got some busy people here.
I think candidly, the challenge is that many of our locality appointees aren't coming.
Right.
And that creates a challenge from a staff perspective that we have no desire to be in an enforcement situation, but we also don't want to tell on people. And so we're trying to create a way to be able to say, like, what's the trigger to reach out and say, hey, is this still a good fit for you? And if there's something going on, Mr. Waddell, I'll pick on you. We're well aware of your zeal for travel. We don't want that to inhibit participation. We just want to know that the person still wants to be on the committee.
Okay, thanks.
And Champ, as I read it, with the member attendance policy, I see that the whole issue is communication. And, if you communicate, we get emails from Janice or somebody else in advance of the meetings asking if we're going to be attending the meeting, fixing lunch, all that jazz. And I think the issue is if you stay in touch, if you're going to be absent for sickness or something else, hopefully you have an alternate to call upon. But if you don't, if you communicate to staff, let them know, yes, you're still interested, but these are the circumstances. The issue is we've had in the past some members who've just dropped out of sight and their appointing organization didn't know it. And it puts the pressure on the staff here to say, to be the bad guys and reporting them to their appointing organizations. They don't want to do that. So the onus is on us. If we're not going to be able to attend meetings, just communicate with the staff. Let them know what's going on. And, like Martha said, the staff doesn't want to be the bad guys in this situation. But it is important that we take our membership importantly and move forward with that. But thank you for your comments, Stan.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Well, to follow up on Martha's point, maybe we might have considered excused absence or unexcused absence. On occasion, I am held hostage on a cruise ship and can't make it. But my heart is in the right place, and I will let Ms. Schickel know that I'm not going to be here, and I'll give a full report on.
Yeah, I think I think the intention with the language is, as Mr. Martin said, it's, to put it bluntly, it's just MIA is the problem. Communication of not being here, even for 3 meetings in a calendar year, is in essence excused. So if you're not gonna be able to make it to 3 meetings, but you communicate before each of those meetings that you can't be here, it will not trigger the remainder of that sentence. It's the communication part that's really what we're trying to encourage. So I want to be clear about that.
Nothing in the policy says you'll be dismissed from this organization. All it says is if there's no communication, you're not attending, then the staff will get in touch with your appointing organization. And it's their responsibility then to find out what the issues are, whether they need to appoint somebody new. And I think that's perfectly fair.
Well said.
But thank you.
And we don't need to know why you're not here. I mean, you really don't need to tell us all the things. We just want to know that you're still interested if you can't be here in person.
Thank you, Martha. Any other questions? Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Anything else? Oh, yeah. You have any other comments, Martha? Ken?
No, I think the policy and the is pretty much self-explanatory. So we're looking forward to seeing how the policy and the compensation work out.
Okay, thank you. Fiscal year 26 work program priorities, Kristen and Martha.
Yes, hi, everyone. Nice to see some of you and new faces as well. So you have in front of you a little stack of some papers that was there when you walked in. It leads with a new handout about Plan RVA, but underneath that you'll see there's a Title VI Plan Review Feedback, and then of course in your agenda today, starting just after, I guess it's page 10. And actually it's page 11 of the packet with the cover page is the Title VI Plan draft. And I just heard you say work plan. Did you mean, am I in the wrong section? I am. Sorry. So
Yeah.
let me just say, those are the things that are in front of you that we're gonna get to right after this. Right now, we're gonna be talking about the work plan, and in those same,
Then you go start.
in that same packet, you're going to see 2 pieces of paper. One is a landscape handout that says FY25 major achievements, and that's an excerpt from the Unified Planning Work Program FY26 that was adopted earlier this summer. And then underneath that, you're gonna see CTAC News, which is the second piece of this discussion item. So this is something for you to take away, both of these things. But let's go ahead and take a look at this excerpt from the work program. And I'm holding it up here just to make sure, FY25 major achievements. The pieces that I'm planning to speak on today are just the main piece that pertains mostly to CTAC. The CTAC's role and focus in representing communities, being here to learn about the existing engagements and how to communicate those back, and to help you reach more people to engage in planning across not only just the TPO work program, but all of the engagements that Plan RVA has going on because of how integrated they are. So I started with that. I just thought, why not start with some major achievement? And you'll notice there that the first thing in that list from FY25 was the outreach and plan coordination, that we created a new engagement portal. And so that's the engage.planrva.org that we've shared several times, and where we hope that you're directing people to go to be able to give their public feedback. I won't read through all the rest of these, but it's nice for you to sort of see that look back at some of the achievements of the previous work plan. And then you'll see the next page about that pack out. It says page 14. And again, this is an excerpt from the entirety of the Unified Planning Work Plan. The priorities for this year. And I think in a previous meeting, I think it was John Leonard, maybe others have also mentioned that this document, this work plan is really kind of what we'll be doing for the coming year. It includes all of the different types of projects. So the long range transportation plan, active planning, many more things that I will not be talking about today. But since it's our guiding document, I think it's really important for us to lead with this. And you'll see that if you keep looking through the document, I don't want to rush you, if you haven't had a chance to really get into the nitty-gritty. You'll see that, you know, we're looking towards the core plan convergence. So my talk today about this is with that in mind, that we have 4 core plans at Plan RVA, including transportation, but also environment, also emergency management, also community development. And when we talk about engagement with the public, a lot of times in CTAC or the TPO, we're talking about transportation. But as you know, and we've talked about, really all of those issues converge, especially I think when you're talking about transportation, because access to housing, your workplace, the way you get to recreation, how you safely convene with family and go about, you know, enjoying all the amenities of the region. So transportation is such an important part of this conversation and the work plan. I also included some federal planning factors. I just didn't want to skip over. There are these blue itemized lists of planning factors that have been adopted. And again, you'll see that they cover really a little bit more than just focused on transportation, even tourism, if you notice. So this is just a little walkthrough of some of the features of that full document that you have access to online, and also in the second document that I've given you. The last 2 pages are really where I wanted to get into the meat of talking about CTAC and our engagement, our data collection. And you'll see that the outreach and engagement portion of that is task 7210. So in this final page, this is when I code my work, I'm in the 7,000s a lot, and 7210 is where a lot of my things happen. There are some other codes as well. But this one is really important, and you'll see that we are about to talk about the Title VI plan, which is one of the 2 guiding plans. And again, the purpose is to ensure the broader public can meaningfully participate in regional planning efforts to ensure plans are centered on people and communities. I love how simply that's written. And right now, because this is the actual work plan, I'm gonna switch over to the CTAC news, because work plans are fantastic. They're the official document, but sometimes they can feel a little bit, you know, they don't feel as accessible to know how to engage with them. So CTAC news, I pulled out that very same section. You'll see at the top, this is for you to take. It's sort of reminding you that we have these 3 engagements happening. A near miss dashboard is always something the public can participate in. Letting you know that by tomorrow, the SEDS will be closing. So again, talking about not just transportation, but other engagements that, of course, the economic development strategy includes transportation, how people are going to access all the things, and even how it's related to employment and housing and upward mobility. But underneath there, you'll see again, this excerpt. So I've tried to make this piece something that helps you understand how, when I look at this task code, when Holly and I look at this task code and many of the others that you'll see in the back of the room, we have a lot of transportation folks here, that same purpose is there. And then the guiding plans, the Title VI Limited English Proficiency Plan and the Public Engagement Plan, or the PEP, that CTAC is heavily involved with. You all revise and work on that plan as needed. And we have a public meeting participation guide that's included as part of that. So these, again, we talk about these things here, but they're really tied to this work plan. When I'm coming to work, I'm thinking, what are the ways I need to focus? And this is an important document for me, and I think also for CTAC members. And then underneath that, you'll see the deliverables. So these are straightforward. There are ongoing ones. There's some as needed, ensuring opportunities for broad public contributions, using sponsorships and memberships to connect with underrepresented communities, revising the public engagement plan with best practices. And then the last one is really where staff comes in and you are not as involved, where we're updating the website, we're cleaning up dashboards with data staff here and other planning staff, and we're managing that engagement portal, which is the social pinpoint platform engage.planrva.org. And that's sort of if we really think, how simple is it? This page, half of the little newsletter is kind of telling you, in my mind, kind of what is CTAC and how do we engage? These are these important guiding documents, and you'll see when we move into Title VI, why that's being brought to you. The other graphic on that page is from the work program. If you go to the website, which I've listed there for you, you'll see that graphic there, kind of telling you kind of what it is. It's actually a type of budget. It's so many more things than just this task code. But for this, our purposes, it's kind of focusing us in, so we don't get lost in all of the other places where maybe our work isn't as focused. Does anyone have any questions or? Yes,
Well,
Charlie.
you used one word that grabbed my attention, and it is budget. And this is probably hopefully relevant, but from a higher perspective. Federal funds, grants, transportation funds, and state. What's your crystal ball outlook for continuing funds for all the projects statewide, specifically in the region? Is that a fair question?
It is a fair question, maybe not for me, who does not deal with budgets, because I think Martha might be able to answer that a little better when we've talked about it, I think a little bit before.
When you say all the projects, you mean the transportation infrastructure investment projects?
Yes, yes.
We haven't been notified of any existing projects that have been funded. So projects that are in the 6-year improvement program and have been, sort of moved along that continuum of a project assessment to underway, haven't been affected by what we hear up the road in DC. I think that as we move through the next few months and the realities of the service transportation bill and transportation reauthorization is likely to be delayed, just because of the lofty agenda that's on the Congress's docket this year. It's probably, I was hopeful that transportation reauthorization might happen before the end of the fiscal year. I don't think that's gonna happen. But, we'll most likely function in some sort of mechanism like a continuing resolution to continue the flow of transportation investments. The news of Secretary Duffy moving on is interesting. So we're just sort of, we're all kind of watching and learning. And I know I've got experts around the room that might have sort of other opinions or lines of sight. I didn't see Andrew walk in, but I mean, it's at this stage in the game, we don't see projects at risk. Our national association is telling us that the advocacy efforts for continuing the role of metropolitan planning organizations and supporting regional transportation planning and investment is supported in DC. And things that have been priorities in this community, such as safety, are things that are continuing to be a priority at the federal level. So, Andrew, I don't know if you want to say anything more about how OIP is thinking about things.
Yeah, I think something that's that came up in the most recent CTB meeting this week, and that we've talked about a little bit from the OIP perspective, is that Virginia's transportation infrastructure is less reliant on federal funding than you may assume. The majority of our funds are state, are formulaic, come from the General Assembly, and are divvied up at the state level. So I would not say that Virginia is one of the less reliant on the federal flow of dollars than many other states. So I wouldn't say that there's like a massive risk to the future of transportation funding in Virginia.
I think maybe an exception to that is transit.
Smaller projects in transit for sure. Bike and pedestrian infrastructure tend to be reliant on grant programs rather than formulaic funding. And those grant programs are often from the federal government and more quick. And those are the ones that we've seen dry up more. So certainly that's a little bit different story.
So that would be rail and bike and pedestrian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
So they are more at risk than others.
I would say that the priorities for where that funding is going and the grant programs that are being used to distribute it are shifting, and we'll probably have less of that money dedicated to transit and bike and pedestrian over the near future.
And can I ask a question? Maybe Mr. Testerman, you can shed light onto this. I don't know that anything has changed with Long Bridge and some of the things that need to happen to kind of put things in place, but I
It's
mean,
full steam ahead.
how are you, how are you thinking about just rail in general in Virginia?
The administration has asked for the same appropriations going forward as the previous fiscal year budget, so of course you have to factor in inflation, but the fact is that no major cuts. So looks pretty good right now.
And projects that get programmed tend to stay programmed. It's more at the planning level that you would see changes like that.
And I guess in theory, some of the conversations that are happening around regardless of opinions about it, I think what I'm reading is many of the conversations around the regulatory environment and the impediments that the regulatory environment imposes upon cost of projects and inflation and the time it takes to get through the regulatory process. Those are things that I think that this administration is very interested, state and federal, is very interested in exploring and alleviating. I just think it's too soon to tell whether things like NEPA, the National Environmental
EPA.
NEPA is gonna, move projects forward faster. I just don't know, and that's obviously a complicated discussion about what protections need to still remain in place and what protections are actually inhibiting our ability to move big projects forward. So that's very much under debate right now.
As long as it's no bad news, I'm encouraged. And all ahead full steam, I like that.
On Long Bridge.
I'll take a qualification.
Springfield bypass is still, I think, awaiting its allocation, but
I've been held hostage there too. Years ago.
yeah, I'm not hearing any bad news right now. Just cautiously waiting to see what happens next.
Thank you. This meeting, these CTAC meetings are always worthwhile for me. The experts.
Well, thank you for your question, Mr. Waddell.
Sorry.
I know I mean, that's something that is on everyone's mind, absolutely. This section of this conversation, I think if you look at the agenda, we really had thought about how the committee and then individual members might be setting some goals for the fiscal year based on the work plan, in particular, this task, the 7210. And I'll just say that there are other places where engagement falls into the Unified Planning Work Plan. I could list a number. I have a little sticky note for myself of 7220 data and modeling, but that's more staff and directing us to do outreach. Of course, the long range transportation plan, active transportation with bike ped RVA, freight and intermodal. They're all engagement happens at several levels. But mostly that would be that staff is developing materials and using the portal and having these meetings to make sure that you have easy access to what the public, the mechanisms the public would use to engage and give feedback, right? Because that's ultimately the goal, is that we want the most diverse group of voices from all of the localities to weigh in and feel that they're part of this planning, because in fact they are. It affects all of our lives, whether people are aware of it or not. And so I'm just bringing us back to that idea that, outreach and engagement, we do a lot of the sort of nuts and bolts work of preparing the things, but we absolutely need you and your networks. And I had some great meetings so far. People have signed up to meet with me and talking very much about those things. So this document is just for you to have something to take with you that sort of encompasses the messaging of this kind of discussion, is that here we have some open engagements, not only transportation, but across the organization, Plan RVA, And then guiding us back to what are these documents and sort of what is the language of the actual work plan. So this is not me modifying, it's the actual language. I love how accessible it is. Again, on the back page, I'm gonna show, I wanted to make sure you were aware of where we're headed. So sometimes we've given you some documents that say where we've been. We sort of, you can see even in the handout of the work program, there's like a list of a certain number of events that we had been to and things like that. It's really important, I think, for you all to feel like you have eyes moving forward on kind of what we're planning to do. So on the back page, you'll see I just started with this fiscal year. There are 3 events that we've already been to. One last night, I was in Charles City last night. The Tap into Transit event was the week before. And then our Emergency Management Alliance of Central Virginia, we have a sponsorship with the Richmond Flying Squirrels. And so there are 6 emergency or preparedness nights. There are 2 more actually. And you'll see those here on this agenda. But this is the current plan of where we're headed to do engagement in the community with people. These events that go all the way through November represent sort of what we have set up and booked. There are other conversations happening, but I'm only showing you the things that are actually booked. And so I think this kind of transparency about where we're going to be is relevant for CTAC. I really have started, and I want to increase this practice, especially when there's locality represented. Whenever I'm coming to your locality, I want you to know that. I want you to feel invited to what I'm doing. I'd love for you to come and meet me there if you feel comfortable. I'd love you to have whatever role you feel like you'd like to have. And the second piece of that is really, how can we respond to either requests from you all or referrals through your networks so that we can be in places and we don't miss important conversations happening? I'll give you an example. I know that one of the members is having a kind of a town hall. They're a supervisor, they're having a town hall. You know, we could come and sort of have some information there and be sort of, you know, set up with a small table, or I could come to listen and be able to talk with some members, but it's much better if we have an invitation from the host. Sometimes when you show up unannounced and you have a lot of things you want to give out, that can be perceived as sort of muscling into someone else's event. And so these represent things that we've booked. But if you look, and I'm sure some of you are looking for your locality, you'll see either you might not be on the board yet, if we think about it that way. And we would just love to have a closer relationship. So I think when we think about setting some goals, like I'd love to open up the floor to talk about, you know, what does it mean? Like if we talk about SMART goals, you know, goals for the committee, what do we want to see? What, based on the metrics here, or is there some other metric you're looking for? And then individually, kind of what is a goal that you are looking forward to achieving in fiscal year 26 related to that outreach and engagement and growing not only membership on CTAC, potentially that's a goal you want to set. And then how do we meet to communicate so that you feel like myself and Holly are not only responsive to you, but also in regular communication about when we're coming to your locality or your area or something of interest to you. So I'm going to open it up just to see if anyone has any thoughts or questions about any of the materials here. Yes, Ms. Waddell.
At what level do you want to participate in the community? For instance, a handful of months ago, we had a community meeting for 2 traffic circles on Creighton Road. And the interest there was real low level, it's real detail. You're at higher level. Is that something that you would probably rule out as being less relevant in the bigger picture?
It's an excellent question and a really great example of something that I think you might be thinking my answer would be like, oh, well, no, that's too locality or neighborhood specific. But in fact, I find that when people in the local community are either charged up about an issue or have a lot of interest in an issue, they're coming with a set of kind of, especially if it's transportation related, those are people who are ripe to also maybe have some thoughts and just to know that there's another place for them to share their thoughts about wider things. So absolutely, I went to a coffee and conversations an event where in Charles City again, where there were close to 100 people there. It's no better research for me than to be in a room where residents are talking about what they care about, and I learn about actually like 2 or 3 more issues or 2 or 3 more opportunities, and I can network with those people. So absolutely, events are one thing, conversations happening in the community. I'm almost feel like that's a sacred space for me to be in. So it may be that we can't accommodate every request, but knowing that you would be encouraging me to come, I'm definitely, that's a goal that I have, to increase the number of invitations from CTAC members. I know that sounds like, you know, it's really on you to invite me, but I am going to set the conditions that you would want to invite us to come to something you know is happening, and you don't have to be the host, but what other, great question, what other questions or?
Are neighborhood association meetings something else that would be of interest? Because I know there's always.
Yes.
Okay.
And we do already do some of those. Dorian's in the back. He spoke at the Manchester Alliance meeting, downstairs at the bench top one day. I mean, it's that other staff want to go to these meetings as well. And I think that's our additional capacity. But it's very difficult to, kind of email, and there's no real connection or recognition. And I think, to me, the more closely we work together in that respect, I think we're gonna see, just wider, deeper, more meaningful connections when we are there, that someone knows that what Plan RVA is, who, Kristen is, that I'm showing up with materials, would be excellent. But I'm not afraid to sort of knock on the door and say, can I come in? And then normally they say yes, but it would be great. Yes, Mr. Burnley, you look like you're about to say.
I agree completely.
This is not.
Sorry,
You go ahead.
thank you.
Okay.
Near miss dashboard, to what level of detail are you looking?
Well, that is a fantastic, that we just won a NATO award this week, in fact, so I'll just give them that we just won an award for that work. So that actually is something that I lead with when I'm talking to people, no matter what kind of event or where I am. I'm saying, do you know that now you can report your close call or near miss incidences, even if they happened a month ago and you just didn't know that you could report that? We're collecting this data. We want to know where the trouble spots are. So it is a drop of a pin on the exact location where something happened, whether you were an observer or it happened to you. You're putting the date, what it was, and so it's 24/7. Yes.
You're looking for traffic hotspots that would include stupid driving or things like that.
Essentially, anything that is causing your travel from destination A to B to be unsafe, whether or not you are a pedestrian, you are on a cycle, if you're in a car and you are driving on a rural road and you're feeling like this is, whatever your issue is, you're allowed to qualify that and put a date.
Then this would kind of supplement at least my county and maybe VDOT's incident reporting system, correct?
Yeah, so because these are incidences that are not able to be reported because they were almost, right? So I should take away the word incident and say they were almost an incident, but it's a scare, and it is something where you felt that your life was in danger in some way. And so as we serve the locality, share that data. So this is, again, a data collection, but it is public driven, it is experience driven, and it's the raw communication from a person to where were they able to share that before now. And I think it's pretty phenomenal, and all the response has been, we really need that, because a lot of times people say, well, they need to know that, and who are the they? And so I think we're just an additional support to localities, and also for the planning projects, knowing, because we have a Vision Zero goal, and I think this was maybe a missing piece of data, preventative data.
Where's that link on?
So it's here on your handout. It's just, I didn't put a QR code. It's just, I want people to know the website, because it's not nearmiss.org. It's nearmiss.planrva.org. So the more we say that, the more we will, not say nearmiss.org, because that won't lead you to the right place. Nearmiss.planrva.org. And it's open all the time. So in other words, it may not be a project, but it's an ongoing engagement that people really respond to.
One more dumb question.
No.
How is the follow-up if I report an intersection of near misses? What's the follow-up to me?
So there won't be any follow-up, because it is an anonymous. You're not putting in your name and your email and asking for Plan RVA to respond to you, because of course we would not be the body that would come out to respond. So the idea is that you're able to share data without any kind of feeling punitive, that you're letting know that this was the type of incident, where it happened, what day. And that I guess it's a democratic way of anyone and everyone being able to report some trouble spots. I don't know if any staff would wanna answer any other, but
So kind of re-asking the same, I understand your answer and I appreciate that. So how would I know that when I hit send or hit enter, that it has been received?
so there's a pop-up that says thank you, it's been submitted. But again, and in fact, all of our surveys to this point do not request name or any kind of identifier other than some demographic information. So I use the word anonymous, it's not entirely anonymous, but you are never submitting when you make a comment unless you were to put your name somehow in the comment, that you are saying, this is my name and email, you're putting your zip code, and some other qualifying income, and if you choose to do that, zip code is the one that we do require.
But we are sharing that information with
Yes.
the localities.
And Kristen, it looks like Jessica has a
Oh.
question she'd like to ask.
Hi,
If you
Jessica,
don't mind,
yes.
Charlie.
Jessica, come
You're
on.
muted, Jessica.
Hi, sorry. No, I was just gonna ask the same exact question that someone else just asked. So just to clarify that this information will then get shared with VDOT or localities, or who is it getting eventually? I mean, is it meant to drive an action or an improvement somewhere, is what I think is wanting to be heard from.
It's intended to be complementary to the incident data. So we get crash data, and this is ideally a way to be able to get additional color to, oh wow, this is not only a dangerous situation because of crash data, but also look at how many near misses have been there. And or let's not wait for something bad to happen, catastrophic to happen, an actual incident to happen. So I think it's intended to help build a better understanding of the safety issues around the region. And so depending on what the issue is, we have to determine internally as we go through the input, how to route it. So depending on what the type of near miss incident occurred, that's how we determine who it gets routed to.
How many incidents have been reported so far?
I am not sure. It launched in the middle of March, and we've sort of still been doing a little bit of a soft launch as we get feedback from people on how it's working. I don't want to guesstimate
Okay.
On the back end.
And to provide a little bit more context, maybe on the data that this is augmenting, the crash data that localities and VDOT have access to and use to make decisions is police reported incidents. So if you get into a fender bender and you don't call the police, that's not going to show up in the crash data. So obviously for high severity crashes, the police are always called. If somebody is killed or severely injured, that's always going to get reported. But low level crashes are generally understood to be underreported, and near misses are not reported at all until now. So this is, I think, a way to better capture where the much more common low level incidents are happening.
And I would say, if you think about modal conflicts, there's a lot of instances probably we've all encountered where we're attempting to cross the street and, a stop sign needs to be put in, or a situation where we probably have all driven in areas where line of sight isn't good to be able to make a turn from, a standing position to accelerate to get into the line of traffic. Those typically are not projects that would escalate into like the long range transportation plan for us. But that's valuable information for the localities to know, like those hotspots, so that they can have that information to be able to think about what their local improvement agenda is going to look like. So it's a way to be able to, I would say, while it's not perfect, we don't have the ability to say, you submitted this concern at the corner of 5th and Hull, and now there's a stop sign and a crosswalk there. We're not going to be able to do that kind of, kind of feedback response. I think it is a mechanism to be able to allow citizens to express what they're experiencing right now, and ideally trust that that's gonna, result in something that maybe the next time or, a year later they go through that intersection and things have improved.
One more quick question. I love this concept. I can think of a couple of intersections that I have some extra deleted every time I go through them. So believe me, I'm glad to find out about that. Have you all done any media stories on this on the news or, cause it seems like people would eat this up and,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just learning about it, to tell you the truth.
I feel like we're in a proof of concept right now.
Okay.
It's kind of like a beta application.
I got it.
And so we're socializing it with friends and partners.
Yeah.
So, I do think RVA, Bike Walk RVA pushed it out through their database, which was really exciting when that happened. We've had some inquiries from local media about like when and how could we think about publishing this? I think we're probably ready. I think the thing that we're trying to let everybody know is that Elizabeth, the designer of this application, probably it's not where she does dreams for it to be, technologically speaking. So I think we're just trying to be cautious that yes, it's an exciting tool and we want it to be out there, but also we want people to understand. And so we want to try to be able to socialize it in a way that everybody gives us a little bit of grace. But if we can demonstrate that this is a tool that the community is embracing, our hope is that we would get funding to be able to enhance the user experience to make it an even more widespread, well-known sort of tool type thing. And then maybe we can expand additional capabilities to do more with it.
Mr. Dixon has
Yeah.
a question online.
Hi, good afternoon. Gordon Dixon, apologize for being late, tardy. I think this is a great concept. The one thing I want to make sure that you make it clear on is that your insurance company is not going to be notified of near misses. I think that's going to be a concern. And you know, I know insurance companies say, oh, your cracked windshield report won't be added to your record, however it is, and it's tracked. And so just making sure that, you know, as you said before, that this is an anonymous report is pretty crucial.
I would encourage you all to go to the dashboard and just, you know, don't submit a false one. But as you said, I think we can all think of some time, even if there was a time, I've told people recently, even in the last few months, I mean, you didn't have a way to, now you're learning about it. That, because it's date specific and time specific, is part of the importance of that. It's not just this spot, it's when. And so the time, I think, factor is important. So you can go back to say that. And this is great discussion because I think the excitement that you're showing and the questions you have are the exact, they don't all ask about the way into the weeds, but people respond. It's one of the ways that I can then shift to talking about 2050. That we have something where you can address something now, but when I begin to talk about the long range transportation plan, sometimes I have to do a little bit more context and, you know, well, this is a plan for 25 years out. You know, when you start with someone that we do short range and long range, and that this data helps us to be more comprehensive. Again, I guess I'm modeling sort of how I speak to an average resident who doesn't know who Plan RVA or the TPO. I say these long names and acronyms, and it starts to glaze over. So even with the SEDS, I talk about transportation in the SEDS when I'm there and a transportation capacity. So I would love for you all to I guess for us to work more closely so that you can maybe come to an event and hear how we're talking about things cross program wise. And wondering if you all have any thoughts about, is there some goal that CTAC wants to set for the coming fiscal year related to the work program and this task, or any individuals? Yeah.
Have it up and running you're in beta testing right now, so to speak.
Sort of, I mean, it's live, but yes, we just haven't done a major push because we don't want to overwhelm the system and we want to have the collateral and the design features and potentially some swag, and of course some of that is money dependent. So,
well, to try to answer your question, have a target date for getting back to us with statistics and accomplishments. I mean, I've got one problem area in mind, and I want to meet with you afterwards and enter the data. So 6 months from now, give us a success story.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, we can update.
Just thinking that it might be helpful for us as we go out into the community, engage the community and get them excited about talking about transportation. If we might have a 15-minute training session on the resources that are out there and available to show specific data that has been accumulated. Because I could see that as a method of, quote, driving folks to the Plan RVA website and feeling a little bit more engaged in the transportation item. Because I know, is this the website that I remember we talking about, that you could actually drive down to a block,
So-
your block, and see what incidents have been reported
Yes.
in your block?
So actually, there are a few. So near miss is a dashboard that does hold incident data or self-reported data in GIS. So it's gonna have little dots there. There's a place where you enter the information and then you switch over and you can sort of see the landscape of the region and where the incidents are. The LRTP survey and issue map is very similar, and it allows people to drop a pin and state things that they are hoping to see or that they like about transportation in the region across modes. So they overlap and they are similar in some ways, but they're serving a little bit different purposes. The LRTP issue map was, taking in information directly to influence the long range transportation plan. Near miss isn't quite at that same outcome level, I guess.
One other quick question, will the near miss be linked with the local sheriffs and police departments?
I don't know about linking, but again, as we're sharing information with localities, I think that is something that is definitely, we're encouraging people, they would not submit an incident where there was damage or they were hit. This is not the place to go. But yes, I do think that was part of the overall goal, was to share with whomever might be interested in having that data. It's open data.
It needs to be done for them. Thanks.
I could make two suggestions as far as like those go. One would, and this is kind of an in the weeds suggestion, but potentially getting this data on VDOT's pathways for planning system. That's where a lot of this type of data ends up, and it's very useful because planners across the state use pathways to collect all that data together. So that could be a really useful repository for this data in the long term. And second would be potentially coordinating with Richmond's Later, Quicker, Cheaper program, because they have money set aside specifically for addressing things like this, where they find out through the public that there's an intersection that doesn't have sight distance. And so they go and they put a bump out in that's cheap. They have on-call contractors for it. And it seems like a perfect marriage between that program and this data, which would be helpful in identifying those small things that don't result in a lot of high severity crashes that might draw the attention of like the statewide safety programs, but would still need minor treatments like that.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll definitely share that back with
Yep.
Elizabeth and the data team working on that.
Had two near misses on the way here.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking
Thank
of
you.
that.
Your fault today.
Mr. Dismore, I'm sorry, Stephanie, before Mr. Dismore, you had a comment. I don't think we got to you. You wanna,
No,
Mr. Dismore, you're,
insurance related.
okay.
I was concerned about, number one, what Mr. Nixon said about underwriting, in particular, how it conveys rates if a number of near miss incidents are reported. That was number one, but number two, I'm sure the insurance industry has a large amount of data. And it would be helpful to use VDOT, insurance industries, the near misses to create an overlay map so that we could kind of consolidate all the data, see where the real issues are. That's something that perhaps can be coordinated, and I'm sure insurance industry may even contribute funding.
Oh, thank you. I'm making note of all your
My
suggestions.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who wants to just speak about and Stephanie, you had a question, but,
Right?
yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the question was maybe a little self-serving because I'm always interested in bus riders and, transit experiences. And certainly with this tool, I've been like cataloging all the times I see people exit a bus and then cross midstream and youth and elders and just all types of people just kind of taking their lives in their hands. But I'm just wondering, is there a way when we do put pins on this map to see them categorically, so that maybe there's like a color coded way to see all of, okay, so these are all reported by pedestrians, these are all reported by people who were using public transit, these are all people who were in cars, that type of thing.
I don't think it does now, but that could be part of that second phase of improvement development. So it's a good suggestion.
Be interesting
Mhm.
to see.
Yeah.
I should share my screen right now, but I don't wanna take up your time. I'll pull up the screen. Does anyone have any other comments or questions about any kind of CTAC goals? I think Ansley and
We've had 156
Thank you.
responses in the near miss dashboard so far.
thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just say from a goal setting perspective, I know I'm not a member of the committee, but I think we're interested, Will and I are gonna be leading a conversation with stakeholders, our transit providers and our transit stakeholders, the broader community about developing a strategy, supporting the development of a strategy for continuation and sustainability of zero fare. So I think that's something that's in the work program, but as Kristen said, it's in the transit line category as opposed to in the public engagement and outreach. So but there's gonna be a significant outreach and engagement component of that work. So just wanted to flag that for you. In addition to that, Dan's not in the meeting today, but two things to let you know about. He will be presenting at August policy board meeting about the completion of the rural transit study. And so that'll be something that is kind of moving to the policy board from the TAC as of their meeting last week for acceptance as complete and to be able to incorporate it into our transit work. And then Dan will be focusing this year on regional transportation safety. And again, there's been a request from our localities to help think about how to amplify the messaging that happens locally to bring that messaging into a kind of a more regional focus. So as you all probably are aware, the city of Richmond and Chesterfield, I think, and Henrico all have launched sort of their own version of some safety campaign, safety kind of messaging things. They think that there's probably strength in the fact that a lot of people cross jurisdictional boundaries on a daily basis. So if we could get that messaging to be uniform across the region, it could help to, repetition helps all of us. And so there's going to be, again, an outreach component to that safety work this coming year that, we see a natural, but I think what we're trying to gauge is what are those issues and topics that exist in the Unified Planning Work Program that are really attractive to you as a body so that we know, and I think Ken's going to talk about this a little bit later, so we know how to plan agendas and think about content and speakers and things like that. So it's not just always us asking you to go out to the community and get answers to questions we have, but like what is the substance of the work of the MPO that this group is really interested in to help be able to move that work forward. So it might be that everybody's homework assignment could be to look at the Unified Planning Work Program, and that's the agenda for the next 11 months. And at the September meeting, really give us, or even in between now and September, really give us some direction about what you'd like to see on your future meeting agendas to be able to be a part of moving that work forward.
Can I do one more question on this? I was looking at the app, so you're looking for asynchronous data, you're not looking for real time.
You can do it in real time.
Yeah, but where I'm
Interesting.
going with that.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be going to a website while I'm driving.
Right, yes.
So the question is, I didn't see a timestamp on there. So you're not trying to analyze time data. It's just like at this incident, I can put a comment in, it happened yesterday at 5 o'clock. You're not looking for real time.
Not that specific. I wanna say there is like a drop down where you can put like 5 o'clock, 5:30,
Right.
one of those.
But you're not tagging the time,
Right,
implying that it just happened.
exactly,
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
about
we don't want you to do it while you're driving.
to the point of someone who says, I just had something really harrowing happen last week. No, you can go and put that date and time in there. And so I think that's the value of something that didn't exist before that exists now. You don't want to say, well, that incident didn't happen to me, or it happened 3 times in the last month. So you could put that. I think people have responded well to that, feeling as though there's some, and knowing that as the regional convening and sharing entity, that we would share that back. I think that really punctuates the role Plan RVA plays in the region, is that we are supportive, that we're connected to every locality. We're not outside trying to influence, we're a part of. The last thing on this little page, this little newsletter, is just reminding you that I really would love to meet with everybody. I've had about 10 meetings, that's a lot. But also with the public outreach and engagement invitation has been there for that committee too. And so it's just, when in the email that I've sent, you can click on it and just schedule a 20-minute time. Now we can meet longer, and I've had much longer meetings than 20 minutes, because some of us love to talk. And I could also meet you in person, if that's preferable. But I think having those one-on-one conversations, I've learned a lot. I've heard from people about some ideas they have. I don't want to speak prematurely that we're enacting every single idea, but there was some even about profiling all of you and learning more about who your networks are. I really love to do more social media and talk about who's on our CTAC, who are they representing, what are, a quote from you. So I have a lot of ideas, but in meeting with you, it's for me to get to know everyone. There are some people who are on the CTAC that I haven't met in person yet, so or at all. So you can schedule anytime. You'll see a lot of opportunity there. And then lastly, I just put in front of you a new handout. These are new little laminated cards that have been updated. They're really, you can see on the front, it sort of tells who we are, who we serve, what our core program areas are. And then on the back, it talks about partnering with us. So I think in terms of CTAC, even though this is not an RTPO specific document, the idea is that the Engage site is there, and partnering with us, learning and accessing, engaging with us. Maybe these could help you. We have some of these available. If you want to take them to specifically put in a location, I'd be happy to give you those. But I'll move on to the next section if there aren't any, or is that your job to do that, Dave?
You're welcome to, but I did want to call out before we move on that this is perfect. I love this handout.
Okay.
This is a perfect encapsulation of the information that we want to see. So thank you for that.
Okay, no, you're welcome.
But no, I think you're good to just move on to the next section.
Okay, well, the next section is about the Title VI document, the plan, which again is one of our guiding documents under 7210. And you'll see that in your packet. This is a draft, the most updated draft. There are members of the equity working group that are here online and in the room who had the task of looking to update this. Staff obviously went and updated all of the outdated information, including our previous location and names and other things. But we did some additional work to this document, including as recent as last week, where the data tables had been updated from 2017 to 2022. This is a still draft in progress. Just this morning, we got the VDOT. Part of the process of updating the Title VI plan is that there is a VDOT review. So we submitted that review in June, and then we just this morning got our feedback. So we are not in a place where we are presenting that to you for any kind of approval today, but for you to have this updated document that's in the agenda to look over, but also to see some of these recommendations that staff will be taking in mind. I'll point your attention to just the section on the data collection. This actual review was done before we updated the table. So we had to submit, by a certain deadline, and the document was where it was. The equity working group was working on it. So some of the recommendations may have already been ameliorated or updated by this time. But there's even just about taking corrective actions in the sub-recipient monitoring about where the data will be housed and kind of things like that. So we are not ready to present it to you for final approval. I think the idea is that we want you to have both of these pieces. They will be updated on the website, so that you'll have those in digital format and everyone online as well. But I think you do have them online already. So your feedback on what you're seeing here in terms of both the document itself and the feedback is welcome. And we would aim to present it to the policy board in October, so that I think in our September meeting is when we would come back with the finalized version for you all to accept as moving forward to the policy board in October. Hope that makes sense. So you'll see on the front, it says July draft. So this is the one you should be working from. We don't expect you to have digested all the changes in here now. Are there any questions about sort of the process we're going through? Does anyone from the equity working group want to make any comments?
I unfortunately was not able to participate in most of the last equity working group meeting, but if anybody else who was there wants to chime in, I don't know who was at that meeting.
Yeah, and it's not an obligation. We just wanted you to know where we are, that there's been a lot of work being done. We're just not quite there because of course these VDOT recommendations that we're taking into consideration. I will mention that we did some consolidating and we took a lot of the bulk. This used to be a much longer document because we had every member and we had a lot of other appendix items that we've moved digitally because that's where the document will live. And so we intend for this to be a little more portable document with all those. None of those items will be removed, but we had membership that you would have to go back into the document and update every year, which made the document not as relevant, I guess, as years go on. We only update this when mandated to do, unless there's some incident that needs to be addressed.
I will say that I did send, and I would have shared this at the equity group meeting, but again, I did send it to a friend of mine who is fluent in Spanish and works in our field, and she's reviewing it this week, and she'll let me know what she thinks about it.
And I would ask if
Translation.
maybe even sending this updated version and we could, would be better because I also made some edits to some things in the Spanish section that were misspellings and things like that that I noticed. So I don't have any other comments about the Title VI plan unless you all have any questions about it. We just want you to know where we are, that we would hope that you all would take a look at this and have any comments before the September meeting. We'll send that in an email to remind you with another copy of the digital version. And then we come back at the September meeting to talk about it. Okay.
If you have a chance, just take a look at some of the data in here from the 2022. It's interesting in regards to medium incomes, percent of population below poverty level, households without cars, stuff like that, that's just very interesting. I don't know if you're interested in all the minutiae and the complaint process and that type of thing, but the data in here can be very interesting.
Haven't looked at the data yet, but will there be a summary, conclusions and projections of trending for some of the aggregate data? Is that question making sense?
I think this document is more of a compliance document, and so that data is there.
Snapshot.
Yeah, it's more of a snapshot and not about any kind of projections.
Okay. But the data itself in whatever repository, will there be a summary saying that we're seeing an increase in public transportation or a decrease in cars or something like that, so we can proactively envision where we might want to be?
But
From the data standpoint.
the long range, Dorian, I don't know if you want to sort of speak to this better, but I mean, there's elements of the long range transportation plan that sort of predict where we're gonna be at the planning horizon, demographically, modally, those kinds of things. So, I mean, again, that's a prediction, maybe not prediction / goal, I guess I would say. I think our data team I know our data team is also working on a more dynamic dashboard that'll be available that actually does like real time, more dynamic accounting of, the types of data points that you're talking about, mix of car-free households, those types of things. So, and that's largely relying on census data, but we're trying to do some visualization tools and things like that that make it more consumable to normal people. So I think there's gonna be a couple different ways that you're gonna see that type of information become more accessible in our agency.
Thanks. So to sum up, it could be our LRP,
Correct.
Yeah,
Of all range
yeah,
transportation.
it's easy for you to say thank you. Look for that. This is a compliance document. Thank you.
Yes.
I got up too early.
That's okay. You're very thorough. I mean, it's, you never know.
I'll live
You never
alone.
know.
I've got some spare time.
One observation is the definition of elderly. And I think that needs to be addressed, and the definition of elderly is over 65. So those of us over 65, we may be a little bit sensitive of being considered elderly.
Is there a demographic young at heart?
But ought to be. I will submit that as a suggestion. Thank you, Charlie. Move on.
Yeah, I will see.
Thank you.
All right, well, that takes us to Ken, correct?
Yes.
We're talking about governance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would refer you to page 67 of your agenda packet concerning election of officers. And I think I need some help here from the committee, for a couple of reasons. First of all, in reading this governance here, you'll see that it says that the chair may be elected.
I don't think.
Sorry, you don't have that, it's not in there?
It's 68. No, you did 68, but I don't need
58, okay.
I don't.
Everybody have it?
We don't have it.
Don't have it, I'm sorry.
Here's the Title 6 page, the agency update page.
Oh, yes. Sorry, it may not be a page number. It looks like this.
It's
Must have caught.
NRBA agency update.
it's page 70.
Page 70?
Mine is
No, that's
68.
one.
Yeah, it's flip back one.
Oh, maybe not.
There we go. That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
Yep, it's labeled 68.
Okay. Let me see what you're looking at there. No,
No. See,
no, that's not it.
it's
Well, I'm sorry, it's not included with your packet, so that makes my job even a little more of a challenge, but anyway, let me just read for you. There's a non-binding guidance document that was adopted in 2018 for CTAC. And it reads, in order to facilitate a regular and orderly rotation of leadership of CTAC among the representatives of the member jurisdictions, the CTAC chairmanship shall be elected pursuant to the order listed below. The CTAC vice chair may be elected by CTAC from the jurisdiction following that of CTAC chair. Terms of the chair and vice chair shall be 1 year, July 1 to June 30th. And then it lists the order of the jurisdictions. And let me just run down through them. It's Hanover, Henrico, Charles City, Chesterfield, Goochland, Ashland, New Kent, Richmond, and Powhatan. And then the last paragraph says, in the event that a jurisdictional representative is unable to serve as CTAC chair or vice chair when required by the rotational schedule, the MPO chair shall appoint a chair or vice chair for CTAC for that term. So where we stand, of course, is Andrew has been serving as our chair. He's from the city of Richmond. Under the order of rotation, the next jurisdiction that would serve as chair is Powhatan. We don't have a Powhatan representative.
Now, am I remembering correctly that Sarah was the chair for Richmond and I was appointed in place of the Powhatan term?
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yes.
Would we then
Right.
cycle to the top of the list of
So,
Hanover?
so in that, if that's the case, thank you for that recollection. In that case, we move up to Hanover County. The representative for Hanover is Charlie Rasnick, who has not been very active with us here of late.
I think if I can interject.
Sure.
I want to call attention to the top of the document that's on the screen that says non-binding.
Right, it's non-binding.
So I think really, according to the bylaws, and I've been reviewing the bylaws a lot lately because we're in the process of reviewing for updates. It is the pleasure of the CTAC to select its chair. I mean, this is sort of the guidance to be able to assure that we don't get a tyrant in the seat. But I really think that you all can make the decision how you see fit and proceed. This is just intended to be that support, again, non-binding.
And that's where I was going, Martha.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
Point of information, you know, what does it really mean if we've got a defined rotation order, having an election? You know, why don't we be honest about it? That this person shall be appointed from the locality. Having an election is kind of a moot point.
I think, again, I'm with you, where I'm going through the bylaws
Yeah.
and the non-binding, and I'm trying to sort of reconcile some things where we've got things that say one thing, to be honest, the TPO bylaws say that the TPO chair picks the chair of these committees. So I mean,
Okay.
it's like, we've got to get some consistency. So I would be very interested to know, how would you all like to function? And then let's go through and recommend to the policy board that we make the amendments to the bylaws and the guidance document to be reflective of what works for this group, as opposed to bending over backwards to try to follow a process that maybe doesn't really work.
Yeah, and it's like,
If I could, as a quick follow, that's kind of my point. Bylaws tend to get bloated and layer upon layer. If we're gonna clean them up, let's clean them up
Yeah.
and
I
get
mean,
rid of all
yeah.
this
I mean, we
crazy
got-
stuff that makes
You know, they
sense.
were developed in 1990
Yeah.
and we've edited over time, I think 4 or 5 times, but I mean, I think that there's an opportunity to sort of modernize them. So in addition to the document that Ken has shared and introduced with you all, the actual section about the CTAC and the bylaws, the policy board has indicated that they'd like to get your input on that. So I was hoping that in September, we distribute the bylaws to you. In September, we could have kind of a working discussion about what you'd like that content to, how you'd like that to read. But the material need here that I think Ken's bringing is, we do need to make a decision about who's gonna be leading this group as we're in a new fiscal year.
and I think as Martha pointed out, you know, it says non-binding and it says that the chair may be elected. So I think we have some latitude here, the way I read it. And again, I'm not an attorney, but just from my reading of it, I think that you know, we could essentially, you know, throw this out the with the bathwater and make our own decision as to who's going to be our chair and vice chair.
I personally like the idea of having a guideline, not a policy necessarily, but a guideline as to the rotation of chairmanship or chairwomanship, or however you want it. And so when we join, we could take a look at that and say, well, I will be vice chair after this person and chair after that person. However, based upon the attendance policy, guidelines, whatever that we just approved, that may come into question, but I think it's just easier, if you will, that we have a rotation. How many of us are really wanting to be chairman of CTAC? Right. So having an open election may be more challenging than what we have now. What I suggest is that the staff sort of keep in question or in line who's going to be coming up next. They ought to be in as vice chair so that they learn from the chair how to do things and attend some of the meetings. But there ought to be some discussion about the forthcoming people who are going to serve in those positions and check and see, are you ready and able to take that on? If you aren't, then okay, not everybody wants to do that. Then you move to the next person. But at least staff and we have some guidance as to what that rotation is.
Yeah, Charlie, I agree. I think that a rotation gives an opportunity for all the jurisdictions to participate and not feel like you have to run for election, that your county or your city will be given an opportunity. Whether you choose to take it or not is another thing. So I'm fully supportive of, as much as possible, trying to follow the rotation.
If I could add, I think the way that we handled last year's change of leadership was a pretty effective model of defaulting to the list, and in the absence of a representative or of an existing representative, participating, or even if they are here and active and just don't want it, like moving from there to, do we have volunteers? Do we have a nomination from there? I think that is an effective model that defaults to this more democratic switching between, while also allowing for the fact that some people just don't want to, or maybe don't feel like they've been part of the board long enough, something like that. Does that make sense? Did people like how that was handled last year?
So kind of begs the question, where does that leave us in terms of moving forward for fiscal year 26?
Well, the next, if Andrew was Powhatan, then the next would be Hanover.
Andrew's the city.
So,
But I was filling in Powhatan's.
Right.
space.
Oh, I got
Yeah.
you. I got you.
and there's nobody,
Right, I'm sorry, I was like, Andrew's not in Powhatan, sorry.
So we just,
so
if
the
I
next,
may, we just put the language in that if we have the set rotation, which we do, if a representative isn't available, we move to the next one, and this isn't rocket science.
Right.
so conversation would be had with Hanover as to what, that it's their turn.
Right.
And if Rasnick is not willing and able, then we'd go to the next.
And I'd also suggest administratively, we notify the localities, oh, by the way, you had your chance, but you don't have a representative, and maybe that'll help change that in the future.
So Chip, it sounds like your suggestion, rather than going to the next in the order, and if not asking for a volunteer nomination, instead would be to just move down.
Yeah, follow the order, just do a round robin.
Right.
Until or maybe we give them a $75 honorarium, whatever it takes. But we just keep going through that rotation. But again, I think we could use that as leverage to localities. Hey, New Kent, you had your chance, but you weren't sending anybody here. Not exactly worded that way, but it's a good way to maybe get some more engagement from those people that haven't been engaged.
Well, I think that it would be relatively easy to communicate to those jurisdictions because they all are sitting on the TPO. Is that what it is? And so that needs to be pushed up to the TPO in regards to the lack of willingness and or activity of their appointed representative.
Something we haven't directly broached, but could we also, it's a recommendation, I think, could we also open the floor to nominations? For somebody that might, even though the next rotation would be after Hanover or whoever, because I sense a lot of leadership and experience around the table that exceeds mine. Not that I want but I sense that there are a number of folks that could step in and lead. And should Mr. Bunn want to go another year and would be the will of the committee, then that should be an opportunity, because great leadership is what we're looking for. And how we get there, it should be up to us.
It sounds like that's kind of the decision then, is whether we cycle through the rotation until somebody takes it, or in the absence of the next in line, we open it up.
Sure, I know what you're saying, and I agree 100% conceptually what you're saying, but politically, and again, I've been doing this for 25 years now. My gut sense is that sometimes the smaller localities, more rural counties may feel like, the 2 or 3 big guys at the table want to hog the spotlight. And when you do it in rotation, hey, everybody has a chance. Plain and simple. And if you don't have somebody there to step up, shame on you, not on us. But I agree. I know what you're saying.
Excellent counterpoint, and I think you're right.
And the expectation ought to be that as when we are appointed by our jurisdiction, that we will fulfill the responsibility of taking over at our turn, vice chair and chair.
Right. Well, what I'm hearing the group say is that it sounds like my marching orders would be to contact the Hanover County representative, since there is no representative for Powhatan currently, and determine his willingness to serve as chair. And also, that would also, following the rotation, contact Henrico County representative and determine their willingness to serve as vice chair.
We have it,
Yeah, Gordon.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Now, if that, so it sounds like the other change we're making here is that the vice chair would now be a chair-elect position as well.
Yes, that's the way it's always been.
Okay.
That's the way it's.
That's a tradition.
Yeah, that's been understood, but it probably.
Oh, Gordon is online, I see.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Martin was gracious enough to step in because of the vacancies that we had.
Right.
The subsequent
Right.
localities last year.
My arm was twisted.
It wasn't.
A little. So in that case, it sounds like Mr. Dixon online would be the vice chair. In the ideal scenario here. So does that mean, do we need a change of leadership in this meeting for continuity purposes, or is this something that we can delay until we hear back from the Hanover representative and figure it out outside of the meeting before September?
I think we can give the people being considered, this is probably news to Mr. Dixon, so I
Yes.
think maybe we could give them the grace of awareness, if that's okay, and conversation, and then come back with, now that we kind of understand the desires, I think Ken can make the communication, come back in September with.
More information on that. So are we due by calendar to have one in July or?
The language is not great. It just says officers consist of a chair and vice chair elected by the voting membership. Only jurisdictional representatives are eligible to be vice chair and chair. Officers shall be elected to a one-year term of office beginning July 1 and ending June 30th.
If it's helpful, I'll be glad to move that we table the elections until the next meeting.
Yeah,
I think that.
at least then there's a record that something happened.
I so move.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, and is this something we need a voice vote for? Okay, sure. All in favor of tabling until the next meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we'll
Thank you.
table it until the next meeting.
We'll have a report at the next meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, so in that case, Ken, you're still up.
Right, and the next topic, I think, and again, you all help me with my recollection of this, I believe that this has to do with how we report out on CTAC business to the policy committee. And I believe that we discussed at our last meeting that we felt like it, in the past, staff has prepared a written report that has been included in with the TPO agenda package. But as I recall from the discussion, it was felt that it may be more meaningful and helpful, and also further the relationship between CTAC and the policy committee for a representative of CTAC to actually come to the policy board and present that information. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
and add a little color to that, the MPO's Community Transportation Advisory Committee Chair is a non-voting member of the policy board, and so that's in the bylaws, and so from a structural perspective, we have a placeholder on the agenda for each of the non-voting members to be able to address the policy board. And as Ken said, it's been customary for a lot of different reasons since COVID that the staff handled the report on behalf of the chair, but we didn't want to take that for granted. So, and thought that it easily, and this happens with other of the non-voting members, if the chair didn't feel like that's a responsibility that they could take on, or somebody else wanted to be that liaison, there could, another could be somebody who does attend the policy board meetings. And I think, again, we're trying to be responsive to what we've heard in past meetings where there's a desire for the CTAC to be more strongly connected to the policy board, and this is a way that could happen.
And quite honestly, I think this could even be done remotely. All of our TPO meetings are hybrid style meetings, so it wouldn't mean that's the CTAC chair or designee would physically have to be here. But
And we've talked about enhancing the relevancy of CTAC. And attending the policy board meetings and being called on to give the report enhances what we are doing with them because there's communication. So I would encourage, if you have an opportunity to attend a TPO meeting, I'd encourage that.
Mr. Chairman, and I think back on this body, duly made a motion and voted in favor of an issue 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm not sure how that was communicated to the TPO, but feedback came back down like, you know, who are you all to do this? And I think that we need to reemphasize everybody here that having the chair of this body present to the TPO and forward to them actions that we have taken officially absolutely needs to happen. And I think that's an excellent idea. We may not have taken advantage of that, or we have forgotten our duties to make sure the TPO knows what we're up to and what we have decided on. So I think that's an excellent idea.
I agree that would be very valuable to
All right.
emphasize for the next chair, I suppose.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that I now, it's a bit late now, but
Yes. Okay, well, thank
Absolutely
you.
agree.
We will endeavor to make sure that the incoming chair is aware of the TPO meetings and is afforded the opportunity to address the board.
With full support always, of course.
Yeah. Anything else on that?
okay.
All right.
Who is handling the agent? I don't think that anybody handles them. The agency updates are in the packet as always. The NRBA newsletter is linked. Okay, that's not in the packet, but I believe you can also get, I think I get that in my email. So
Everyone is
Yeah.
getting the new.
probably have already received the Better Together connector. Does anybody have further comments that they would like to add at the end of the meeting here?
I feel it's very productive and informative, and thanks for your patience for all my dumb questions.
They're very helpful questions. Thank you for asking them.
Bill, it's nice having you join us.
Yes,
Yes, well,
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
A question about potential new members to sit and to join CTAC. Now that we have a policy, attendance policy, how are we going to approach that? How many seats are available? What will that look like? Process.
I can maybe take a part of that, unless Ken, you know it off the top of your head. We've got 12 at-large organizational seats and 9, 10 of filled in 10 organizations, Chamber RBA, Office of Equitable Transit and Mobility, the City League of Women Voters, NAACP, RABA, RBA Rapid Transit, Span Center, VCU, Virginia Conservation Network, and Virginians for High Speed Rail. I do happen to know that the chamber representative is, I think that this is, I believe John Easter retired as of July 1st. So I think that that's one, he's staying with the chamber for a few more months in a consultant regard, but I do know that that'll have to be adjusted as far as who is representing that organization. But in theory, if all of these organizations, and most of them are active, all of them are active, actually, it would be 2 open organization seats, and then just a matter of making sure that the individuals that represent those organizations are still able to meet the responsibilities. So 2. Yeah, and I think it really at any time, the policy board would just need to endorse the recommendation, but I think they rely on this group to say who needs to be at this table.
Mr. Martin, our lovely vice chair, reminded me to remind all of you to fill out your forms for the honorarium,
Right.
if applicable.
Yeah. You can
You
give it
can
back to
leave
me.
them there, you can leave them there.
You've got one for your own that you can take back with you, just for your records. And then there's one that needs to come back to me.
Right, so everybody, please remember to do that. And then I'm not exactly sure how the election process will go in September and how that conversation will happen. So I did want to take just a quick moment to let everybody know that it has been
Hey,
a
dude, how are you?
sincere honor and pleasure to serve everybody on this board. I'm very happy with the work that CTAC has done in the past year, and I'm extremely excited to stay part of it and see where things go from here. So thank you all very much for that. And with that, thank you all very much for your time, and I'll see you. I had to use the
I look
gavel.
forward to seeing you signing up for
Yes.
meetings with me.
Sign up for the
Get a
meetings,
little alert.
and we'll see you on September 18th.